And Lisa, just so you know, I'll be letting people in. You don't have to worry about that. I don't know if you can see that
Yeah, I
on
see
Zoom.
them popping in, so I'll make sure I'll let you do
Yeah,
that.
I'll keep an eye on that. Okay, I think we should get started. So welcome everybody. Welcome to Parkinson's Orange County Ask an Expert series. We have this the fourth Thursday of every month, and I'm really excited about our guest speaker today. I first met Lisa, I think it was last December. I'm Lauren Simmons, I'm the board president of Parkinson's Orange County, and I was diagnosed with Parkinson's about 9 years ago. And I had gotten to the point where my medications weren't working as well. And I was looking for something different without popping another pill. My anxiety was getting the best of me. And so I was looking for something to see if I could help handle that without taking any more medicine, which often has side effects. So I did some research and I came across Lisa's name, and Lisa's down in San Diego. She does a lot of work with the Parkinson's Association in San Diego. And my husband and I went down to see her because she was speaking at Empowerment Day down there. And then I made an appointment with her and went from there. And it really, really helped me. Just a couple guidelines here as we get going. I'm going to ask everybody to keep themselves muted during Lisa's presentation. And if you have any questions, we're going to have a Q&A session when Lisa finishes. Or if you're like me and you know you're going to forget your question, you can go ahead and put it in the chat and we will get to it after Lisa's presentation. Okay. So Lisa, I am going to turn it over to you.
Perfect. Okay. Hi,
Okay.
everyone. Thanks for coming on your lunch hour. This is fantastic. And thank you, Lauren, for inviting me. I do biofeedback, and I've known about biofeedback for a long time. And the reason why I was introduced to it was because I went to a support group with my mother, who was diagnosed with a rare movement disorder, where she tried different types of medications. She was actually one of the first people to try Botox. She was in the early trials at the Mayo Clinic. And she went to a support group talk just like this and learned from someone else how biofeedback helped relax a certain muscle that was tight in her jaw. And when she did the biofeedback, the muscle relaxed and her dystonia went away. So I got my mom back from that. And I continued to go to the support groups and talk and learn. And then I went to university and I learned more about the brain and how we can actually impact different circuits in the brain by doing certain types of biofeedback. So this support group is kind of where I started teaching you and learning from each other. So it's good that, and thank you, Lauren, for opening the door for more people to learn what I do. So I do have the Smart BD program here in San Diego, and I offer all sorts of biofeedback. So I'm going to talk about the different kinds. Let me get to the next slide. So we'll talk about the different kinds of biofeedback. The research. Now, I will warn you that I'm going to do some research dropping, but I'll try to keep it at minimum because there is a lot, and it's been around for 20 years, specifically for Parkinson's, but 60 years for biofeedback in general. And then I'm going to show you my clinical results, including Lauren's. She's agreed to show some of her results and talk about that as well. And then I'm happy to answer any questions at the end. So first, I'm going to talk about the biofeedback types. The ones that I use in my clinic are the top three. So brainwave biofeedback, EEG biofeedback, or neurofeedback, it goes by different names. And basically, it's just a mirror to yourself, safe as a stethoscope. You're just measuring with sensors your brain activity. And our brain activity is electrical, so we can see it and display it to you. So we're only listening and reading. And what your body does is responds to itself. So people with Parkinson's tend to have certain patterns in the brain that are locked in. So if you have tremors, it's a certain feature. If you have slow movement or freezing of gait, it's a certain feature. And over many years, they've actually identified each Parkinson's symptom brain area. So even drooling has its own specific area. Urinary urgency has a specific area in the brain. And I've collected all those different markers for 20 plus years. So when you come to me and you say, this is my list of things that I need help with that perhaps medication isn't always working for, or you just don't want to take a pill for everything like Lauren had said. Next, I use balance biofeedback. And this is a device that's actually developed here in San Diego at the university, and it's a local company. And it helps you determine what is your comfort zone, your stability ranges, and it trains your brain and your body so that you can get better feedback from your nervous system. And then I do the brain training as well to coordinate the two. The next one is heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is a measure of stress. And it is the autonomic nervous system ability to adapt to stressors. So if you wear a smartwatch, you might see a little score on your smartwatch saying HRV. The lower that HRV score is, the less able your body is recovering from any kind of stressors. The higher it is, the better you are at recovering, relaxing, sleeping. And the best thing about heart rate variability biofeedback is this is a device you can buy right now on your own and do it yourself. And it can improve sleep, anxiety, it can improve fatigue, it gets you more mental clarity. And then the bottom row, the temperature, sweat, and muscle, those have been around for 60 plus years. So that's not a new technique. It's a technique that's available. Some hospitals, I know Scripps here in San Diego provides biofeedback for constipation, migraines, and I believe urinary incontinence as well. So it's not new, but it's newer for Parkinson's because we're now repurposing things. So when you think about what do you need help with, what biofeedback type fits you best? So heart rate variability, which you can do at home, start right now. I have a device that I recommend. I'll put it on a slide at the end. And that's just nervous system regulation. Let's get you out of fight or flight, feeling more calm so that you're rest and digest, basically. So you get better sleep, less anxiety, and even improving with constipation. Because once you're relaxed, everything else works out fine. Muscle tension, if you feel like you can't have smooth handwriting or your arms are always stiff from tying buttons on your shirt or laces on your shoes, even signing a check, handwriting. Muscle biofeedback is very good for just relaxing the muscles, and that's the one my mother used for her jaw. And then there's EEG, the biofeedback that I use most predominantly. That's for just waking up your brain again. So there's certain areas of the brain that slow down with Parkinson's, or they get locked up, like I said. And there's a way to actually redirect the brain to awaken. And we also can target apathy, which we know there's no medication for. We can improve sleep, even REM behavior disorder, which we know is a precursor to Parkinson's when you act out your dreams. We also improve the slowness of movement, and we can reduce tremors. Piggybacking all of that, you can reduce pain around the tremors, pain from low back, because that also causes a lot of brain fog. And then breathing biofeedback, just doing the respiration patterns. So everybody knows that the better breath rate you have, the lower the stress you have. You can reduce anxiety on the spot. Then, of course, I talked about balanced biofeedback. So that helps you reduce your fall risk. So that's important.
Lisa, if I could interrupt you for one
Sure.
second, we do have a request that you slow down just a little bit.
Absolutely.
You knew that was going to happen.
I apologize. And then you can go into the YouTube and watch it slower. Okay. So the timeline for neurofeedback, I didn't want to show you all the most important studies because they're very valuable to for you to learn how important this is for us. But neurofeedback's been around since the 70s. So this is not a new technology. This is not a new science. It was originally developed a long time ago for ADHD, starting with epilepsy, but with ADHD. It then became more acknowledged for Parkinson's in the late 90s. And interestingly, the parallel of this timeline goes along with the DBS being introduced. And why that's interesting is because the DBS also works with the electrical activity of the brain. Inside, we're short circuiting, the spindling, basically what's happening for Parkinson's. But we can see on the surface that exact same spindling with neurofeedback. So a lot of times I'll say to you, you've got spindles in your brain, and we track that through our sessions, and you can see a change because I make a certain part of the video game your spindles. And then in 2000, we started to look at how it reduces tremor and improves movement initiation. In 2010, they actually started to look at fMRI neurofeedback, although a little bit more expensive and you have to go into a machine. They were very interested to see if that actually the brain can learn from fMRI neurofeedback, which they prove that can. 2014 was a big study for me because it showed within 8 sessions, and I show it in the slide couple down. In 8 sessions, you can restore balance and gait with people in Parkinson's, and it was published, and they put it in a certain area of the brain, and it works very effectively. Then 2017 to 2020, woman did a monkey study. So she exposed monkeys to MPTP, which creates Parkinsonisms. And then she did neurofeedback for half the group and no neurofeedback for the others. And the monkeys that did the neurofeedback had less Parkinson's symptoms even off medications than the monkeys that did have Parkinson's symptoms on medication. So the neurofeedback helped And when she looked at their brains afterwards, they had actually developed a new compensatory route in the brain that made up for the loss of dopamine. So fascinating information. I do have other YouTubes that go deeper into this research. So I have presented to other support groups where I do a lot of research talking. So if that's something you're interested in, you're welcome to do that. And then in 2021 to 2025, it was more of, now that we know Parkinson's can change and the brain can hold these new patterns and learn, they're now saying, what can this help? So it's not so much is the brain learning, can people with Parkinson's change their symptoms? It's more now, how much can we apply this to, which is pretty remarkable. So just on July 4th of this year, hooray, because I'm always reading research. It's like a full-time job for me sometimes. They just published a review study, and they looked at the last 20 years of biofeedback and neurofeedback for Parkinson's disease, and they gave a review of what it can help for Parkinson's and what research has shown. And they're pretty definite that biofeedback and neurofeedback can help. And so much so that I've actually seen on the APDA, the Parkinson's Association, and the Parkinson's Foundation recommending biofeedback for various conditions. Even for speech, you can do biofeedback for your speech muscles, which is pretty remarkable. And like I said before, it even works with drooling to stop the drooling, which is can be a very dangerous situation. So these are the things that they found in the study, what can be impacted or improved with biofeedback or neurofeedback. So for motor issues, it can help with slowness of movement, it can help with your tremor, it can help with freezing of gait, which we know there is no medication that works for that, and there's no treatment, although you can do therapies and do sort of best practices to stop the freezing of gait. Working to target the brain, you can actually reverse it or actually remove it. And I have several clients, one that went on video with a testimonial you'll see soon. Postural instability, executive function. So there are no medications for executive function, but if you reboot the frontal lobe by giving it information to be more alert it'll function with better attention. It improves memory and mood. And then back to the autonomic, which is sleep and digestion. Urgency is very responsible, and orthostatic hypotension or instability is very responsive to HRV biofeedback. So those are the few things that are really important in how biofeedback works. I wanted to throw this article in because it was 2 weeks ago, and the reason why I'm putting it in is one of the leading neuro researchers for Parkinson's, Dr. Michael Oken. He has a great book out, he's actually several books on the Parkinson's plan, but he had found the study that behavioral therapy can sometimes be more important than taking a pill for everything. And what they found was overactive bladder symptoms are just as good as taking behavioral therapy is just as good as a pill. So he put in his little speech, you don't always need to start with a pill. And that's where I came in, and that's where Lauren came in. It's like, we don't need to take a pill for everything. And there are a lot of risky side effects, and sometimes stacking your medications isn't always the best idea. So think of biofeedback as an alternative, but not replacing what you're doing. It's just an added benefit. So I'm going to dig into brain biofeedback because that's where I focus most. And what we do is, again, we look at the different patterns of the brain. So the brain is electrical, and we put sensors non-invasively, and we look at the different patterns. So if you see at the bottom, the delta is the slow wave, and that is basically your brain is asleep. So if I'm measuring your brain, and this is what I would say to Lauren, are you falling asleep? You're getting a little tired. I could see these tired brain waves coming in. And basically, if your brain is operating there all the time, you're going to have fatigue all day long. You're going to not be able to pull thoughts together, maybe have brain fog. Pain can actually cause your brain to be more tired. And then there's the theta and the alpha. So that's just a different progression of tired, but alpha is relaxed. So alpha you want to produce when you're kind of just idling and you're quiet, relaxed. But if you're nervous and anxious all the time, alpha can be blocked. And if it's in the wrong part of the brain, then you actually can ruminate too much, or you get stuck you can't go to sleep because you're stuck in an alpha cycle. And then beta is when you're alert. So beta makes you feel good, ready to go, get the day started. You're doing a lot of great things. There's a lot of dopamine underneath beta as well too. But if your beta spindles, which is what happens to Parkinson's in the system that controls your movement, then it's actually turning the system off and on, off and on, off and on. And that's where the DBS goes in and tries to re-regulate it, which coincidentally, they just published 3 days ago. They're thinking of doing DBS neurofeedback, where yes, it's very interesting. The brain waves are going to dictate how the DBS turns on and off. So it's kind of a closed loop, but now they're thinking outside the box, not just for Parkinson's, but for other neuropsychiatric issues like schizophrenia, depression, all things that don't necessarily respond the best to medication. So when I start with you, I look at, okay, is your brain stuck and tired? Do you have too much beta spindles? Where do we need to start? But I also ask you, what is your plan? What is your goal? I want to go to my daughter's wedding in 3 months. I want to be able to travel again. I want to feel like I'm not anxious to go to my exercise class, any number of those things. So we look at seeing, what do we do? So I start with a brain map. And this is Lauren, of course, and she's sitting, and I just record her brain, eyes open for 10 minutes, and then eyes closed for 10 minutes. Gives me a lot of information of her alert state, her motor system, her visual system, all of those things, even though it's at rest. And then it generates for me a map. And that map will give me connections. It'll give me processing speed. It will give me how the different areas of the brain are communicating with each other. So in this last picture with this head colors, you can see the reds and the blues and the greens. So the green is good. Everything's running fine. The blue means it's offline. There's not enough information getting to that area. Coincidentally, that offline is your movement initiation, getting started. So moving out of a chair, getting started if your feet are stuck. So if you don't have a lot of activity in that area, your motor system isn't going to engage. It also is apathy. So the left prefrontal is apathy. It's lack of motivation. It could be depression. And then in the red areas, you can see right on the top here, let's see if my mouse comes in. That is your motor system. That's the supplementary motor area, the most important part of your brain for movement. It's locked up in those beta spindles. We can teach the brain to release that and get good results. But how we do that is a little bit of a mystery for some people because you're playing a game with your brain. And that's really hard to wrap your head around until you actually experience it. And it's tough because I understand you're sitting in a chair and you're listening and watching a game that is a direct mirror to your brain. So you can see on the bottom screen, there's a little squiggly lines. That's what I watch, the EEG. And I look at all the different features. Do you have too much slow? Do you have too much fast? And I choose the sensors of where I put them on the brain. So if I want to put in your visual system or if I want to put it in your motor system, and then you learn with feedback how to balance so that you're alert and focused without anxious. So I'll give you an example. If you can look at the spaceships, the middle one is calm focus. The left one, that purple one, is when your brain is distracted. So you're thinking about the bill you forgot to pay 2 weeks ago and it just popped in your head. Then I will catch you and the computer will say, hey, you're not paying attention. You're distracted. If you start to fall asleep, that one will go strong. But I can also put that spaceship to be your tremors. And I'll show you a video of how that works. And it's coming up next. So this is a fellow whose tremors occur in that purple spaceship. Now, if you want to look on the squiggly line screen, the EEG, the 1 to 7 there is measured. And if I don't know if you can see my arrow, but it's a very big brain wave. And it's 24 microvolts is the size that we do. So I have the sensor on the area of his brain that controls his tremor. And he's looking at it and he's trying to figure out, what does it take to tell his nervous system to calm? And it's a little bit more complicated than that. There's a lot more underwires that are working with the circuitry in the brain. But basically, when you're sitting in the chair, you get feedback to what you're doing. And so in the next session, as you can see, his tremors, actually, it's the exact same session. It's just 10 minutes later. He's figured out what it takes to turn off his tremor circuit in his brain. So if we go back to that squiggly line, when it was originally 24, you can see it's so much better and it's down to 15, and that purple spaceship is gone. So over time, his brain learns this is a better place to operate. And he learns that the brain can hold this new pattern and it builds a new compensatory route for it to hold this new pattern. And it's pretty remarkable to see it, but it happens through a course of 4 to 5, maybe 6 sessions, depending on how quickly your brain learns and holds it. So here's an example of another person who came for 20 sessions. As you can see on the left, she's got slow gait, very hesitant to turn, and her arm swing is very poor. So we worked on the parts of her brain that contributed to all those things. And then towards the end of the 20th session, she has a fast gait, she's quick turn, and her arm swing is back. She's got an accelerometer on her arm because we were also working on her tremor. No, she was walking so fast that she kept waving at me every time she was like, I'm doing so great, look at me. And it was remarkable because the people that were around her saw her on the day 1 when she started and day 20, and they could not believe what a difference her stride, her movement, even her facial expressions came back, which is pretty remarkable for a lot of people. But I want to tell you about freezing of gait because there is no reliable treatment for freezing of gait, and it is a very big fall risk. And this is Ken, who started January of last year. He had a lot of symptoms he wanted to address with neurofeedback, but one of them came as a surprise to both of us that stopped without us even keeping track of it. So I'll let you hear what he has to say.
To have these episodes where I'd be walking along, say walking in the kitchen, and I would just stop and I would have to think about what to do to be able to continue walking. It wasn't just like I'm going to walk from here to there and you just walk along without thinking about it. I had to, actively think about, okay, I got to step forward and so on. Those lessened with the treatment, and after a while they completely stopped. And the final one that I had, the last one I had, was interesting in that when it happened, I started thinking about the gain, and then it stopped and went away. So that was pretty interesting.
So a lot of times I ask clients, what did you do to get the game to work? And a lot of people have different things. Lauren said she's cleared her mind, stopped thinking about everything. So for every person, it's different. And my job as a brain coach is to figure out what it is that you need to do to find that sweet spot where your brain is calm and quiet but focused. So that's where the experience comes in, and learning where to put the electrode, how to coach you into getting it to work, and then just continually building on the progress that we get. So because freezing of gait is a fall risk, I wanted to introduce again the balance biofeedback. And I use this in my clinic, but again, here is the study that they show within 8 sessions, just doing neurofeedback by itself can improve static and dynamic balance. So that's being able to recover if you feel a little uneasy on your feet. And the brain has so many different areas that regulate balance. It's your visual, your vestibular, it is, your anxiety, your executive function, all those things govern balance. But the brain is a network and everything is interconnected. So if we just tell the brain to sharpen up or fine tune, things come back online. So when I combine the neurofeedback with this balance board biofeedback, here's an example of a client who came in who loves to dance. He was losing the ability to dance, and he came in and he said, I can't even go up the stairs anymore to carry my coffee. I've got vertigo. So we measured his balance and something called the limit of stability. And that's basically how comfortable he feels his body is able to move forward, to the side, to the left, and to the back. And once we finished or did 6 sessions, I said, well, let's see where we are. We were both shocked on how stable he had become on the front and a little bit on the back, but he still has a little back left issues. But I share this with his physical therapy, and they love this because they can see visually where he needs to focus a little bit more and what we need to do. And as we're doing it, there is a biofeedback program built into it. So I'll show you. The board you stand on, you actually weight shift and you swing your hips left and right, and you get visual feedback of where you are in space. And that's important for Parkinson's because we tend to lose the feeling of where we are in space, whether it's visual, vestibular, somatosensory. So basically giving you feedback. And as you get better with feeling yourself in space, I will start to task you with more. So I dual task you. So let's add some load. I'll ask you to name all the fruits that start with J, or, complicated things. And as your brain has more loading and more tasking, then it becomes stronger as we go. So going back to the research back in 2023, when you add multiple types of biofeedbacks to Parkinson's disease, you get much robust results. So you can get faster and more sort of spread of symptoms you can cover. So in this study back in 2023, they combined both biofeedbacks and neurofeedback, and they saw that depression decreased, gait speed increased, balance improved. So it's great, and it's important that when you go to your doctor and they say, I've never heard of it, we've got research. And this is where we've got this sort of in our pocket saying, okay, there's research, we can show them. Again, if you want to get started right away, there's at-home biofeedback, and we need to address stress, which I thought was very interesting, is that when you become more stressed, it actually decreases your effectiveness of your drugs. So it kind of is a thief. And they found that any kind of stress accelerates all chronic illnesses. So it is important that whatever you do, whether it is gardening or going on a vacation or just finding something, meditation, finding something to address your stress will have a big impact on your disease progression as well as your daily life. But if you wanted a tool, because a lot of people like feedback, because feedback promotes motivation, because if you're doing well, you want to keep doing something and it shows you that you're doing well. This is what it looks like for this specific HRV biofeedback that you can, again, get online. And right now it's on sale, which is fantastic for the summer. But basically, when you're stressed, your nervous system is erratic, and you want to regain control over something called heart rate variability, the rhythm of your heart and breath in sync. And it's very easy to use, and you can feel yourself getting into a calmer place as it happens, and then you get rewarded for it. And the best thing is, and like Lauren and I were talking earlier, once you learn how to do it, that tool is yours forever. You don't need the device all the time to do it. So if you're in an airport and you're nervous, you can just center yourself and find that feeling, because eventually once you learn the feeling, it's always going to be yours. I've had people use it when they've got dental anxiety, or if you have car anxiety, or if you're not the driver and someone else is driving and you're a little nervous about that, you can go into that state of just calmness that allows you to find your nervous system at peace. So it's really good, and it's preset. They've got stuff for stress, for sleep, and it is really good for fatigue, because stress can actually make you more tired because you're always exhausted by thinking about things, ruminating, planning. One thing that they did find out, that HRV is low in Parkinson's, and that makes sense because your body is constantly being under stress from movement and digestion and what have you. But I can tell you with confidence that it doesn't have to stay that way. So this is an example of a client who did HRV biofeedback along with the neurofeedback program. And as you can see, his total HRV power more than doubled in 1 month. It was quite remarkable, and he felt the difference. And it was also interesting that his wife started doing it, and they're both doing HRV together, and they're quite a happy couple now. So it's good. It's good for you, for your care partner, for your family. But when you think about biofeedback, think about how it calms your nervous system so that you have better stress recovery. And that just means overall stress. You're handling your bill pay, you're handling taxes better, you're handling your daughter's college fee funds better. Just everything is not burning you out like it used to. It improves your sleep quality so that you don't have as many night wakings. And this is something a lot of my clients are telling me, which is very valuable, because sleep is the master control of how your brain resets. It improves your memory, it improves your it removes toxins from your body as well too. So you do need that deep sleep. It boosts focus and cognitive clarity. It supports gait and balance, so fine motor control. So these are all different types of biofeedback, but they all have a way of promoting independence and your improving your quality of life. So remember, there's 50 years of research for biofeedback. There's 20 years of biofeedback, neurofeedback for Parkinson's. It's there, and I have it all listed on my website. So you're welcome to look at the individual studies, the review studies. There's so much out there. I can't even keep up. Even on a day-to-day basis, it keeps coming out more and more. So we know that people with Parkinson's, they can learn to change the patterns of their brain with neurofeedback. So again, it's just a matter of how do we apply it and for what symptoms. So my clinical results, like I showed you before, a green brain is good, everything's online, everything's doing well. The red brain, basically the symptoms dictate where it's locked up, the blue areas where there's not enough information. So specifically in this one, you can see the red is all locked in sort of the area below the ear and a lot of the frontal lobe, them get up and go. And the motor system on the top here, that's not being able to actually get out of a chair or feeling very stiff. And after the session, I give you a report of how your brain has changed. And for Lauren, it was 13 sessions, which was remarkable, really remarkable to get such a big difference. She's very motivated. She did great. And here is actually a copy of her alpha waves. So alpha, if I can remind you all again, is calm. And when you have more alpha, you feel calmer in general, everywhere, all the time. So when she started, there was very little alpha in her whole brain. She just sort of kind of in a vigilant state, you know, whether it's, you know, worry or what have you, but just her brain was in vigilance. After the sessions, the 13 sessions, her brain produced so much alpha. She was so much more relaxed. In fact, when she wrote the testimonial for me, she said she went from a 10 plus to a 2 for her anxiety, which was pretty remarkable. And the data shows it. You know, her left side, she had very little alpha. And then on the right side, everything just filled in perfectly, basically. And one thing I learned from her also is the smartwatch app called Strive PD. And I'm not sure if a lot of you have it, but it's a free app that you can put on the Apple Watch that tracks your tremors and your dyskinesias. You can put your medication timings, everything. A wonderful device. I recommend it to everyone because as your symptoms start to change, it's really hard to say quantitatively what is different. But here is this device that says when she started neurofeedback, her tremors started to go down. Is it because she was less anxious? Possibly. Is it because we're working on the tremor circuitry? Possibly. But whatever it was, we noticed a difference and it's great to measure. Now, this is another client, and this is another type of biofeedback. So all of you know about continuous glucose monitoring and blood sugar monitoring. One of my clients started doing neurofeedback in March, and he also had type 2 diabetes. When he took his monthly markers for his diabetes, he noticed a dramatic difference in his blood sugar levels. That wasn't something we talked about. It wasn't something we were working on. It was just, okay, your blood sugar levels are getting better since you started neurofeedback, because his stress level went down, his vigilance level went down, and those all impact blood sugar. And when you're not as stressed, you're not grabbing for the ice cream. When you're not as stressed, you're not doing things that you want to exercise more, you have more energy. So it was very interesting that he showed me that. And I decided, wait a minute, he also has a smartwatch. So we put the smartwatch on and we paired it to his continuous glucose monitor. And guess what? His blood sugars dictated his tremors. So every time he had a spike in his blood sugars, it matched to the exact time his tremors went up. This type of biofeedback was the game changer for him to realize, wait a minute, I've got to change what I'm doing. I have to change how I'm eating. I have to exercise more. And we continued with the neurofeedback, and the tremor, the pain from his tremor, because it was tremoring so much, went away. It hasn't come back, and it's been 8 months. It's fantastic. So he started with, I want to stop my tremor. But now that he saw that this is working, he said, okay, can you help me? I can't read anymore. It's hard for me to focus. Yes, I know where that is in the brain. I can help you with that. You just keep wanting to learn what else can neurofeedback do. So he's now, I think, 8 months into his program. He's ready to start surf lessons. This is the first time, 74 years old, ready to start surf lessons as soon as the water warms up. He's pulling out his guitar again. He's ready to play guitar again. And he put that aside for probably a decade. No more pain. And he's reading like he used to, which was really valuable to him because he was a voracious reader. He loved to read. And just getting some of the simple daily things back is really what matters to him the most, and to probably you. But the most important thing most people come to me for is memory. I'm having trouble finding the word, or I can't finish the sentence, or I get lost in my thought. There's something that I learned called freezing of speech. So we know about freezing of gait, but there is also something called freezing of speech. And there's a certain area of the brain where when you think of a word and then you produce the word, there's a connection between there that gets cut off for people with Parkinson's. So the word is there, but the system to produce the word is lost. And so I've been working with a lot of people with word finding issues and getting tremendous results. But another part of word or brain processing speed is your cognitive performance. So there's a frequency in the back of the brain called the peak alpha frequency. We call it the independent alpha frequency. It's a measure of your cognitive reserve, or how fast your brain is processing information. So we know that with Parkinson's, the brain slows down. If it goes below 8, that's when I flag it. And so I measure every person's peak alpha frequency, and that helps me determine where do I need to start to speed up the process of the brain. And the best part is, once you speed up that one network, a lot of the other networks come online. And symptoms that maybe we weren't tracking start to come back. I had one person who their auditory hearing in one ear returned, and her audiologist said, "What are you doing differently, and why is your ear working again?" Because the processing speed of the brain in general connected everything better. So that was really a remarkable result from us as well. And we know that neurofeedback helps accelerate memory consolidation. So doing neurofeedback actually can speed up the brain, help with memory consolidation. And this has been a study that was published 10 years ago already. And it improves working memory and attention. So a lot of times with people with Parkinson's, they feel like they're falling asleep in the chair. Where did I leave my keys? I forgot to take my medication. These are all things we can address with executive function and actually just telling that part of the brain to speed up. Now, when Lauren came in, she said she had a little bit of brain fog and it was hard to do things, focusing, staying on one task, just planning in general. And we found that marker in her brain in the left front. And it's just still so remarkable to me after 13 sessions how quickly her brain fog cleared. And she described it as a windshield. I think it was a windshield wiping over her brain fog and just feeling so much clearer. And it is really important, to just have those functions back, just to feel like yourself again and do the things you love and feel accomplished, basically. And this was another fellow who came to me. He had a lot of fatigue and gaps in memory, and he was having stress about driving. And sure enough, when I looked at his brain, his frontal lobe was very slow, and that contributed to his fatigue. Once we cleared that fatigue and cleared the slow frequencies that were happening in there, he studied and passed his driver's license test so that he could keep it. And that's important for him and his independence, and of course for his family. So it's important to know, where your brain is going offline and what we can do to help. A lot of times clients tell me different things that they didn't expect to change would. One client told me, my husband, I took a picture of him this week and he smiled for the first time. And now I can see his dimples again. She hadn't seen his dimples, and she looked at the picture and she's like, oh, his dimples are back. So some clients have had their tremors have reduced. I'm steadier in public. I'm sleeping through the night for the first time in years. My brain feels clear. Urinary urgency isn't a problem. And I do have a lot of testimonials around that, or urinary urgency, which is a really big problem because some of the medications cause a lot of side effects. So I do have testimonials online, and everyone can watch different, what happens during the neurofeedback sessions and what you can expect. But again, Ken was the fellow that I talked about before with the freezing of gait. He had pain, a lot of pain, muscle spasms, slowness, freezing episodes, severe urinary urgency. It was impossible for him to travel. But after a few weeks of sessions, he drove up the coast to Oregon with his fiance. No problems. He's planning a trip overseas next year. So this is a quality of life thing, and this is his how he talks about it.
That's one thing that I've really noticed is my fiance says that she can see big changes, especially things like anxiety, more so than I can see in myself. And I think people need feedback from someone close to them, that whether or not they see a difference, because when symptoms go away, you can easily forget how bad they were and that they were there. Unless someone gives you the input that you are really doing better, and they want you to continue. we're not curing Parkinson's, but it does make
Oh, did it stop?
the symptoms much more tolerable in terms of happening less often, less severe when they do happen.
So I want you to think about, it's not a replace for medical care. It's just filling in the gaps where medications often don't have success. So the cognition, apathy, fatigue, there is a marker they published last year for the fatigue marker of Parkinson's specifically. So they know it has to do with the theta and the alpha. We can also help with sleep, including REM behavior disorder, just getting insomnia taken care of. Insomnia has had a marker for 20 years. We know what that is. Coincidentally, it has to do with spindling beta. So even if you didn't have Parkinson's, but you had spindling beta and insomnia, that was our target. Gait freezing works really well. And of course, we work with memory issues as well. So when we do the SMART program, the SMART PD program, you tell us specifically what you want. I want to get my tremors. I want to get more energy. I'm tired of being fatigued by noon. We work with all of those things, and I take sort of a health inventory. So we set your goals, and everything is measurable. And how it starts is I get the brain map. Again, you sit in a chair, 20 minutes, eyes open, eyes closed. And then I get a health inventory. You know, what other things are going on? Do you have an autoimmune condition? Do you have chronic pain? Do you have sciatica? I have to know everything, because the big picture, your brain governs everything. So once I get the big picture, I take those protocols and your goals, and I develop a program for you. And that program might include balanced biofeedback. It will definitely include neurofeedback. And then I also welcome you to use the biofeedback at home. And what I do is I ask people to come 2 sessions per week, mainly because that's where the foundation starts. It's like an exercise program for your brain. You need to start a program so that it builds on itself. And then after, with like Lauren, after a certain amount of sessions, you kind of know that it's sticking. And then once it sticks and you're happy with the results, we can end there, or you can just be more curious and say, what else can it help with? Can it help with this? I'm drooling more. I have chronic pain in my legs or my hips, and all those things can be addressed. So if you wanted to get started, basically what you do is you just go to my website, and I'm here again in Encinitas, so North County, San Diego. And you can book a free call. We can talk about your specific case. Every person will have a different response. Yes, Lauren responded in 13 sessions, but your health history will tell me kind of an idea of how well you respond. And you could also surprise me. Some people get done really quick, and it's quite surprising how well, if you've already done the foundational support of I eat healthy, I exercise regularly, I know how to meditate, all those things are bonus things, but that they're not necessary. And that, again, the first 10 sessions are basically the pivotal ones, and you do them twice a week. And it's the foundation, basically. And if you start to space those sessions further apart, then the progress may be a little slow. But usually within the 4 to 5 sessions, you start to feel it. And booster sessions come every once or twice a year if you need them, because life happens, and stress is where, kind of sets us back for everybody. So I'm happy to share that there's tons of research on my website. So you can just go, and there's a QR code. And then my YouTube channel has the testimonials and sort of 2-minute explainer videos to get you to understand what it is all about. And so you don't have to always rely on medications for everything. And there's some tools that you should look into, that you deserve, more options for Parkinson's. So I want to thank you. And this is my website, and you're welcome to call as well too.
Wow. That was a lot of good information, Lisa. Thank you so much. If anyone has questions, you can feel free to unmute and ask your question, or put it in the chat. But I will get it started, since I have a couple questions that came into me. Someone said, since having Parkinson's, I cannot focus as well when reading. Would this help?
Oh my gosh, yes. So when my client said that, the one with the diabetes said that, because, well, now that everything else is going really smooth, I'm not reading very well. And there was a study published on how to improve reading. And so I developed a protocol, 2 sessions. He's reading 45 minutes a day, every day. So yes. So there is a doctor here in San Diego. His name is Dr. Hillier, and he does vision training. And he was telling me about the muscles of the eyes in Parkinson's, and how the eyes don't team very well. And there is a circuit in the brain that helps with eye teaming, convergence and divergence. And the frontal eye fields are right here in the top center of the brain. If I tell that circuit to come back online, your attention span increases, your motor muscle teaming increases. So yes, and I just did that, so I am very confident.
I know that neurofeedback is being done other places. I don't know about specifically for Parkinson's. So if we have people who are not in the Southern California area or not San Diego, Orange County, is there a website, an organization, or someplace where they can go to find who is doing this?
Yep. So the best thing to do, to be honest, is Google. If you just Google neurofeedback near me, you're going to find quite a few people. If you're in a major hub, there is something called the ISNR, the International Society of Neuronal Regulation. So it's isnr.org. A lot of clinicians put their name in there to say I'm available for providing biofeedback, neurofeedback. But again, if you Google neurofeedback, you'd be surprised. And here in San Diego, there's probably about 18 to 20 practitioners in the city. And what you can do is you can call me or email me and say, I found this practitioner in my city. Is this a match? Because there are some neurofeedback practitioners that are comfortable taking people with Parkinson's, and some are like, I don't know how to do this, I'm not sure. And I will coach them and give them the protocols that will help the best. So if they get a brain map, I will inspect the brain map and say, this is the tremor protocol, this is the fatigue protocol, this is the apathy protocol. So I actually consult with other therapists in other cities. So once you find someone, I can screen them and say, yep, this is the right person for you. And then we move forward.
Great. Once somebody has gone through the initial sessions, I know you mentioned one of your clients, 8 months later, he was still doing well.
Yes.
And I know everyone with Parkinson's is different, but what's kind of the typical, how long does it last?
So because I've been doing this so long, it's a great question. I had a client for 17 years, and I worked with him on and off for about 4 or 5 years, and then he took a 9-year break, only because we got rid of his tremors, and that's really what his main goal was. And then his family called me up after the break and said, do you help with balance? Because it was, as the disease progresses, the balance is probably the biggest issue. And it was just at the time where I got the balance board and I had understood the research that they'd just been doing it. And I said, yeah, I can do balance. Let's do this. And so I was able to do balance with him. Other clients, when they take a break, they come back maybe 2 to 3 years. But again, like you said, everyone is different, and how your lifestyle is a big dictator. Do you exercise? Are you eating well? How are the stressors? Do you have this community? And we know that a sense of community is just as important as what you eat. Just feeling like you're not isolated is super important for managing the disease as well too. So the more you have supporting you, the less you need of me, but I can keep you basically on that route, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Someone asked how much it costs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
so
if insurance covers it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the brain map is the most labor intensive for me, because I look at the brain and I match it to the database and I look at the markers, and then I try to develop a protocol based on everything that I see. And that brain map in itself is $600. So that gives me the starting point and our baseline, basically how to measure your success all the way through. And then each neurofeedback session is $175. Medicare does not consider it a medical treatment, so it will not cover it
yet.
Yeah, I know. Let's keep working. Oh my gosh, let's just keep working on it. The neurologists that I've talked to, they're very supportive in it. They don't recommend it necessarily because of that lack of insurance, because they have to make sure they're referring things that everyone can pay for. And some neurologists are not sure of what it can help or how it helps. And that's why that new review study that just came out 2 weeks ago, it shows clearly what it can help, how it can help, 20 years of research. So I think I'm going to build something that helps you bring this to your neurologist and say, hey, this is new, I want to try it. And a lot of times the neurologists say, well, it can't hurt, so you might as well try. And that's fair.
Mm-hmm. Someone else said, my main issue as of late is lack of sleep. I'm sleeping probably 2 to 5 hours per day. I get fatigued midday and take a nap.
Yeah. So fatigue. So there's something called excessive daytime sleepiness. And there is, and if you get this weird cycle of you're napping in the day and up all night, there is a pattern that we see, and I hate to say this, but they just published what the brain looks like for somebody with Parkinson's when they're sleeping, and why those sleep stages are not being met, and how we can get those sleep stages met. So if you have fatigue, there are a number of things that cause that fatigue. Is the medication causing fatigue? Because we know L-DOPA, the side effect is fatigue. Do you have any blood work that needs to be checked into? Are your B levels fine? Are your D levels fine? Do you have any kind of anemia? So it's not just, Parkinson's or, what your medications are, but the whole person picture. So a lot of times I recommend something called a functional medicine doctor. And I don't know if a lot of people know what a functional medicine doctor is, but they look at the root cause. And the root cause can be not just Parkinson's, but it could be a thyroid issue, or it could be you've got mold in your house, or any number of things. So I take the big picture. When you say fatigue, I see a lot of things in my head, and I have a lot of questions to talk about with you. And taking a nap is okay. There's nothing wrong with a nap, between the 1 and 3 time, that's a siesta. But what if you're taking a nap because your blood sugar spiked? What if you are glucose resistant, like your insulin resistance? And a lot of people with Parkinson's have become insulin resistant because they want sugar to get that dopamine rush. And constantly exposing your brain to these highs and lows of sugars can make your body less adaptable to that sugar. And so when you have a carb meal, let's say you have a sandwich and a cookie for lunch, you're gonna need a nap because that's just too much sugar. So I don't just look at, is your brain tired, but also what are the lifestyles that you have around you that cause that fatigue? And then looking at deep sleep as well too. So if you wear a smartwatch at night, I look at, do you have deep and REM sleep as well, and how do we improve that? With HRV biofeedback, that really has a big impact. So
I know when I came to see you, I was having a similar issue with I wasn't sleeping that much at night and not getting the deep sleep. And I don't remember, you were the one who figured it out. I don't know how you figured it out, but you kept saying, I think it's medication related.
yes.
And I was on a medication. And as soon as I went off it,
Yep.
I would wait. It was keeping me awake in the middle of the night. And I was so alert when I went off it. I would still wake up at night, but at least I could go back to sleep.
Yeah. And that study that they just published explained exactly what you were going through. It was just almost the clarity of that was just, oh, it's the medication timing that was causing the peak, because dopamine is still waking your brain up, even if it's the time release. So yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah. Darlene says, if someone is needing to decrease anxiety and they're on medication for the anxiety, do you support that they taper off or decrease the anxiety medication if they can?
So I always tell you to work with your doctor on medications. Always, always, always. I am the tool to help you get there, but I am not the person that talks about medication with you. That's out of my scope of practice, but I will be that person that helps you do that. So a lot of medications you do have to taper very slowly, like Cymbalta. You have to taper very slowly if you're going to reduce it. Even Xanax, that's a trickier one. But there are things that you do have to have medical guidance for. But I work with all your care team, and I'm completely open. I make reports, I show data. In fact, I've shown data to some neurologists and they're like, this is amazing, but I don't know how to read it. So I have to make it very clear, okay, this person's, heart rate variability changed from this to that. And they're like, what does that mean? And so I have to explain a lot of things. So yeah.
I don't even begin to be able to understand what it is that you do. And even though it was very successful for me, I don't know how it works. And I can tell all you guys, I would go in, and especially in the beginning, the first, I don't know, maybe half a dozen sessions, I was exhausted when I finished. And I was tired from trying to not think, because I was looking at these things on the screen, and every time a random thought would come in, which was very, very frequent, it would make the little spaceships do what they weren't supposed to do. And so I was trying to clear my mind, and it was very difficult in the beginning. And I would leave there absolutely exhausted from that, but it did get better over time. So
yeah, and it was, you were trying to make the biofeedback work instead of letting it work. So you were trying to make it do the spaceships and and as soon as I think you found that sweet spot of effortless, let go, and that pattern caught, and it was beautiful, you just melted in the chair and just wonderful.
I remember one day you said something like, I just saw your spindles do something. I don't know what you were talking about, but you were very excited about it.
Oh, when you stopped your spindles, oh, that's wonderful. When I watch people's spindles stop and not come back, it's really remarkable. It really is, because you would never know. I mean, but I'm watching it. It's like watching a movie play all the way through, and just, but then you feel it, you feel more clear. You've got less anxiety. You're moving better. And I remember when you told me about the Beat Saber and how you got your highest score. And it was just, and I have clients, calling me up and saying, I climbed rock climbing the highest I've ever been. It's all these like personal wins that really make the big difference. It's pretty remarkable.
It did the windshield wiper thing. That's exactly what it felt like. It felt like I was looking through like this dirty windshield, and whatever happened, and it just like cleared it.
Yeah.
And then I could play my video game and get a higher score. It was
great. Brain fog is a really big, and it's very, brain fog comes with everything, and it just, to clear brain fog is such a wonderful thing. Yeah, absolutely.
One last question.
Sure.
Hi, this is Luis. Thank you for the information. A quick question. So during this process of that you're offering here, do we continue taking our medication, or do we come off the medication?
So when I do the brain map, I want to see end of dose, because the medication does create a certain brainwave. And I know that, and it's been published. We know that certain medications create the alpha wave. So when you come in for the brain map, I want to see it as end of possible. If you're functional and you can do that, perfect. If not, then I just sort of accommodate for that. When you're doing the training sessions, there are 3 things you have to be really good at. No coffee in the morning, because that creates a brainwave that actually interferes with the biofeedback. No alcohol the night before. And if you're taking any type of CBD or kind of THC, those alter the brain. And that kind of impacts the progress. All other medications have been cataloged, and we know how it affects the EEG. So if you tell me you're on certain types of medication, I'll know, okay, that's a certain EEG I have to look for. But when you stabilize the brain, the medications also start to become too strong, because the brain is stable. And that's when we get your doctor involved, and we say, hey, I'm having more side effects, or I don't feel the benefits of this anymore. And I have quite a few people that have gone through the process of reducing or changing a lot of things, including the diabetic person who no longer has to take Ozempic and Mounjaro. I mean, once the body and brain stabilize, there's less need for added things. That makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Sue says, I was diagnosed in April. Propranolol has stopped my tremors. Is it too early to try neurofeedback?
So interesting. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to say this again. They published that there are certain types of tremors that don't respond to levodopa, and it is a completely different circuit in the brain. And I've seen a couple clients who do respond to propranolol, and the brain circuitry for the tremor is completely different than Parkinson's tremor, which is great, because then I can actually go into that area and help the tremors decrease. So it's never too early. I tell you that, never too early to start neurofeedback. Stabilizing, resetting the brain, recalibrating everything, never too early for that. If you have other symptoms as well that you want to address, then that comes in with neurofeedback, because the brain organizes everything. So yeah, never too early.
So Jeanette asked, she's considering bringing a friend, relative who doesn't have Parkinson's, but has anxiety. Can they do the program too?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So there's so many practitioners, and we know that anxiety, we know there's 14 markers, believe it or not, in the brain for anxiety, all different kinds of anxiety. And so when I do the brain map, it helps me locate where that anxiety marker is. And we found the anxiety marker in you as well. So we knew where it was. Yeah, but we knew where it was. And boy, can we turn the volume down on it. So yes, I'm open to receiving any kind of clients that want to just stabilize their system, work with different symptoms. Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely.
I am a firm believer that the brain can definitely change and can learn no matter what stage, no matter what age.
Yep.
I really think that there's so much that the brain can do. So I'm happy you're doing what you're doing. We're at the top of the hour, and I want to respect your time. Does anyone have any last minute question? They want to unmute and pop in and ask Lisa a question? No? Okay. Well, you can always email Lisa.
Yes.
If you have any questions, I'm sure she'll be happy to answer them for you. Lisa, I really appreciate this. I appreciate your time and all your knowledge about this. Like I said, I don't claim to understand how it works, but I know that it helped me. So, next month, our Ask an Expert, we're going to have Dr. Mindy Bixby, and she will be speaking about Crexont, and that will be on August 28th at noon Pacific time. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you then. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And again, thanks, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.